She was 8 months pregnant when her husband told her to sleep in the guest room, not because of a medical emergency, not because of renovations, because his mother needed the master bedroom. And it got worse. His mother moved into the nursery. She painted over the 42 constellations her daughter-in-law had hand-painted for the baby. She replaced the crib with Louis Vuitton luggage. She called her son's pregnant wife a nobody from nowhere who got lucky. And the husband? The millionaire who built a $40 million empire from nothing? He said nothing. Every single time. He chose his mother. What he did not know. What his mother did not know. What nobody in that house bothered to find out. Was that the quiet woman they dismissed? The wife they called simple? The daughter-in-law they tried to erase? Was the sole heiress to a $30 billion global empire? She had hidden her identity for 3 years because she wanted to be loved for who she was, not for what she was worth. She got her answer. And what happened next changed everything. The lesson. This story carries a truth that many people learn too late. Never measure someone's value by what you can see on the surface. The quietest person in the room may be the most powerful, and the person you dismiss today may be the one you desperately need tomorrow. Love is not about choosing comfort. Love is about choosing courage. Every single time. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of your own strength, or someone you know who deserves better, leave a comment below. Tell me, have you ever been underestimated by the people who should have known your worth? I read every single comment. And if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We share stories like this every week. Stories about resilience, about justice, about women who stopped making themselves small. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today.
You can sleep in the guest room. My mother needs the space. Grant said it without looking up. His thumb scrolled lazily across his phone screen. The blue light caught the edge of his jaw, and for a moment Vivian thought she had misheard him. She stood in the doorway of their bedroom. One hand rested on the curve of her belly. 7 months. The baby kicked twice, quick and sharp, as if she understood something her mother had not yet processed. What did you say? Vivian asked. My mother is flying in tomorrow morning, Grant replied. He still did not look up. She wants to be here for the birth. She needs a proper room. The guest room mattress is fine for you. It is only temporary. Only temporary? The words landed like a stone dropped into still water. Vivian had spent the last 3 weekends painting the nursery across the hall. Soft gray walls, a hand-painted mural of constellations. 42 of them, she had looked up every single one. Orion for courage, Cassiopeia for strength, Lyra for music. She wanted her daughter to sleep under stars that meant something. Grant, I am 7 months pregnant, she said. Her voice was steady. She had learned to keep it steady. I need our bedroom. The mattress supports my back. My pillows are here. My doctor said, Vivian. He finally looked up. His expression was the one he used in board meetings. When someone presented a problem he considered beneath his attention. Patient, slightly irritated. She is my mother. She flew across the country. Do not make this difficult. Do not make this difficult, as if she were the difficulty. As if her swollen ankles and aching spine and the human being growing inside her were inconveniences in his schedule. She opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. Okay, she said. She walked down the hallway to the guest room. The door was slightly warped and did not close properly. The mattress was a twin. It dipped in the center like a hammock. The sheets smelled faintly of lavender fabric softener, the kind Dolores had sent them last Christmas with a note that said, "For when you learn to keep a proper linen closet." Vivian sat on the edge of the bed. Her weight made the frame creak. She placed both hands on her belly and whispered, "It is okay. We are okay." but her hands were shaking. Not because of the room, because of what the room meant. She was seventh on his list. After his mother, after his comfort, after his image, after his routine, after his avoidance of conflict, after his phone. She was seventh, and their daughter was eighth. She pressed her back against the headboard and stared at the ceiling. A water stain spread across the plaster like a continent no one had bothered to name. She breathed in for 4 counts, held it, out for 4 counts. She had been doing this since the 2nd trimester, counting breaths instead of saying what she really thought. In the bedroom down the hall, Grant's phone buzzed. He answered it. His voice carried through the thin walls. "Hey, Mom? Yeah? Everything is set? She is fine with it. You know, Viv, she is easy. Easy." She pressed her palms against her eyes. She was easy. The next morning, Vivian woke at 6. Her back ached from the twin mattress. She shuffled to the kitchen, started the coffee maker, and pulled out eggs. Grant liked his eggs scrambled with chives. She had learned this in their first month of marriage. She had learned 1,000 small things about what Grant liked. She was still waiting for him to learn one thing about her. At 8:15, she walked across the hall to check on the nursery. She wanted to adjust the mobile. Little silver stars that caught the light. She opened the door. The crib was gone. The rocking chair was gone. The changing table had been pushed against the far wall and covered with a sheet. In the center of the room sat 3 Louis Vuitton suitcases, monogrammed DW. On the dresser, a note in handwriting she recognized immediately. Elegant, pointed, like the woman who wrote it. "Moved baby things to the basement. This room has better light. Dolores." Vivian read the note twice. She folded it carefully and placed it back on the dresser. She stood very still. The mural was still there, 42 constellations, but now they looked down on luggage instead of a crib. Orion watched over monogrammed leather. Cassiopeia guarded garment bags. She closed the door quietly. She did not slam it. She had never been a woman who slammed doors. Sometimes she wondered if that was the problem. Dolores arrived at 11. She entered the house the way weather enters a valley. Inevitable, unquestioning. She wore a cream blazer and pearls. Her silver hair was set in a style that had not changed in 30 years. She smelled of Chanel and authority. "Vivian," Dolores said. She did not hug her. She surveyed her, eyes moving from face to belly to bare feet on the hardwood. "You look tired. Pregnancy is not an excuse to let yourself go." "Hello, Dolores," Vivian replied. "How was your flight?" "Cramped. First class is not what it used to be." She walked past Vivian and into the kitchen. She opened the refrigerator, frowned. Grant grew up eating proper meals, not this. Vivianna looked at the refrigerator. It was full. Fresh vegetables, organic chicken, the pasta sauce she made from scratch every Sunday. But it was not Dolores's version of proper. Nothing Vivian did was Dolores's version of proper. Grant came downstairs. He hugged his mother, lifted her off the ground. Dolores laughed. It was the only time Vivian heard warmth in her voice. "My boy," Dolores said. She cupped his face in both hands. "You look thin. Are you eating enough?" "I am fine, Mom." "You need real food. I will cook tonight." She glanced at Vivian. "You can rest. You look like you need it." That evening, they sat at the dining room table. Dolores had made pot roast, Grant's favorite. She served him first, then herself, then, as an afterthought, Vivian. "Have you thought about names?" Dolores asked. "We have a few ideas," Vivian said. "The baby should have the Whitfield name," Dolores said. "Only. Hyphenated names are so common, and Callaway sounds like a brand of soap." She said it with a small laugh. the kind of laugh that dares you to be offended. Vivian looked at Grant, waiting. He cut his steak. The knife scraped against the plate. He said nothing. The silence lasted 4 small seconds. 4 seconds is not a long time, unless you are waiting for your husband to defend you. Then 4 seconds is an eternity. Vivian set down her fork. "Excuse me," she said. "I need the restroom." She walked to the bathroom, locked the door, sat on the edge of the bathtub, pressed her palms against her eyes, hard, until she saw white spots. She did not cry. She would not give herself permission to cry. Not yet. Not over a name. Not over soap. But it was not about the name. It was never about the name. It was about the 4 seconds. The smell of lavender hit her the moment she returned to the dining room. Dolores had placed a diffuser on the sideboard. Lavender. She always wore lavender. Even now, sitting in someone else's home, rearranging the air itself to suit her preferences. Vivian sat back down. The pot roast had gone cold on her plate. She did not touch it. Over the next 3 days, Dolores moved through the house like a gentle occupation. She rearranged the kitchen cabinets. She replaced the hand soap in every bathroom. She told the cleaning woman to come twice a week instead of once and handed her a new checklist. She reorganized the pantry alphabetically, and she talked. She talked at breakfast, at lunch, at dinner. She talked about Grant's childhood, about his achievements, about the women he could have married. "There was a lovely girl from his Harvard class," Dolores said, on the second evening. "Rebecca Thornton. Her father ran a hedge fund. Beautiful family. But Grant chose you." She said chose you, the way someone says settled for. Vivian cleared the plates. That night, lying on the sagging twin mattress, Vivian thought about the woman she used to be, the woman before Grant, the woman before this house and this guest room and this life that had quietly shrunk around her like a sweater washed in hot water. She met Grant at a coffee shop in Portland. October. Rain on the windows. She was reading a paperback, drinking black coffee, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt. No driver, no security detail, no last name that would set off alarms in a search engine. He sat down across from her because the cafe was full. He asked what she was reading. She showed him the cover. He said he had never heard of the author. She said that was okay. Most people had not. He asked what she did for work. She said consulting, not a lie. She consulted on the strategic direction of a $30 billion global holdings company. She just left out the part where her mother founded it, and the part where she sat on the board, and the part where her trust fund could buy his entire real estate portfolio 40 times over without touching the principal. Their first date was at a Thai restaurant. He talked for 90 minutes about his company, his deals, his vision, 40 million in assets. He was proud. He had built it himself. No family money, no safety net, just work and nerve and ambition. She found his pride endearing. He had earned $40 million, and it was the center of his identity. She had been born into 30 billion, and she had spent her entire adult life trying to pretend it did not exist. He never asked what her consulting firm was called. He never asked about her family. He never Googled her. In the beginning, she loved that about him. He was incurious about her past because he was so consumed by his own future. Later, she realized that was not romance. That was narcissism wearing a charming smile. They married 14 months later. Small ceremony. A garden venue in wine country. 30 guests. Vivian's side was sparse. Her mother, Rosalind, attended but stayed in the background. Her brother, Tate, walked her down the aisle and whispered, "You sure about this, Viv?" She was sure. She was absolutely sure. She was sure the way only someone who has never been hurt can be sure. Dolores was not warm at the wedding. She surveyed the venue with a thin smile. "You could not afford a proper ballroom?" she asked. Vivian had paid for the wedding herself, with money from a trust she told Grant was a small inheritance from my grandmother. The grandmother's small inheritance was a $200 million trust set up when Vivian was born. Now, lying in the guest room, she replayed those early months. Grant opening doors, Grant sending flowers, Grant calling her my girl in a voice that made her feel found, all of it tainted. Not because the memories were false, but because she now understood the terms. He loved her when she was small, when she was grateful, when she was easy. The word again, easy. Downstairs, Dolores's voice carried through the floor. She was on the phone. "She is fine. Plain but fine. Grant could have done better. But the baby is coming, so we make the best of it." Vivian pulled the thin blanket up to her chin. The baby kicked, hard, right under her ribs. "I know," Vivian whispered. "I know." The next evening, at dinner, Dolores announced she had been researching hospitals. "The best maternity ward on the East Coast is at Hartford General," Dolores said. "I called this morning. They have availability. I spoke to the head of obstetrics myself." "I have a doctor," Vivian said. "Doctor. Pryor. She has been with me since the first trimester." "Sweetheart." Dolores said the word, like a pat on the head. "I am sure your little doctor is adequate, but for my grandchild, I want the best." Grant agrees. Vivian looked at Grant. He was pouring wine. He did not look up. "It is just something to consider, Viv," he said. "My doctor knows my history. My blood pressure has been—" "We can transfer your records," Dolores said. "I already asked." "You already asked." Vivian repeated the word slowly. "I am trying to help." "You are trying to decide." The table went silent. Grant set down the wine bottle. Dolores's face hardened. The lavender in the room suddenly smelled suffocating. "Vivian," Grant said. His voice was the warning voice. The do not make this difficult voice. "She is trying to help. Say thank you. Say thank you to the woman who had dismantled her nursery, replaced her soap, moved her out of her bedroom, and was now trying to replace her doctor." Vivian looked at her husband. She searched his eyes for something, anything, a flicker of recognition that she was a person with preferences, with boundaries, with a right to choose where she gave birth to their child. She found nothing. His eyes were impatient, waiting for her to perform the role. The easy wife, the grateful daughter-in-law. "Thank you, Dolores," Vivian said. The words tasted like ash. Later, in the guest room, she sat on the bed and stared at her hands. They were capable hands, steady hands. Hands that had signed contracts worth more than this house. Hands that had held her mother's hand at her father's funeral. Hands that had painted 42 constellations on a nursery wall. She pressed those hands against her belly. Her daughter shifted inside her, a slow roll, like a wave. "I am not invisible," she whispered. "He just chooses not to see me." She said it like a fact, because it was. The phone call changed everything, not because of what was said, but because of who answered. Vivian sat in her car in the driveway. The engine was off. The October air fogged the windows. Inside the house, Dolores was rearranging the living room furniture for better flow. Grant was in his home office on a call with investors. She dialed the number from memory. She had not called it in 4 months, but her fingers knew it the way they knew her own heartbeat. 2 rings, then a voice, sharp, warm, profoundly annoyed by default. "It is about time," Margot Kellner said. "I was starting to think you had been abducted." "I need to talk," Vivian said. "Obviously, you sound like you have been swallowing gravel. What did she do now?" "She moved into the nursery." Silence. Then, very quietly, Margot said, "She moved into the baby's room." She moved the crib to the basement. She left a note. More silence, then, Vivian Rosalind Calloway, say the word and I will rain legal hellfire on that woman's perm. Vivian laughed. The sound surprised her. It came out ragged, like fabric tearing, and then she was crying. Not the gentle kind, the kind that bends you forward, that comes from somewhere below your ribs, that you cannot control no matter how many breaths you count. Margot did not shush her, did not say it would be okay. She just stayed on the line. 4 minutes. 5. Until the sobs became hiccups and the hiccups became breathing. Tell me everything, Margot said. So Vivian told her. The guest room, the hospital, the soap, the pot roast, the 4 seconds of silence when Dolores called her last name a brand of soap. Margot listened without interrupting. This was unusual for Margot, who interrupted the way other people breathed. When Vivian T. finished, Margot spoke carefully. Viv, you know what I am going to say. Do not say it. You have been playing house with a man who does not deserve to know your middle name. You are sitting in a driveway, 7 months pregnant, crying over a woman who reorganized your kitchen. Meanwhile, you could buy her zip code. That is not the point. It is exactly the point, not the money. The fact that you keep making yourself small so he can feel big. And he is not even big, Viv. He is medium, at best. Vivian wiped her face with the back of her hand. The windshield was completely fogged now. She could not see the house. For a moment, that felt like relief. Margot was not just Vivian's best friend. She was the head of legal for Callaway Global Holdings. They had met at Columbia Law School. Margot was the only person outside the family who knew every detail of the Callaway empire. And she was the only person who had tried to stop Vivian from disappearing into Grant's world. You told me once, Margot said, that you wanted to be loved for yourself, not for the name, not for the money, just for you. I remember. And has he loved you for yourself? The question hung in the air between them. 300 miles of phone signal. The answer was simple and devastating. He loved the version of me that made him comfortable, Vivian said quietly. The quiet one. The easy one. That is not love, Viv. That is convenience. After the call, Vivian sat in the car for another 20 minutes. The fog on the windows sealed her in. A private world. She thought about the day she left her family's life behind. She was 24. She had just finished law school. Rosalind assumed she would join the company. Tate had already been running the venture capital arm for 2 years. The path was clear. Corner office, board seat. The Callaway name opening every door before she even knocked. But she had watched her mother build that empire. She had also watched her mother lose 2 marriages to it. She watched Tate become hard, suspicious, unable to trust anyone's motives. Every friendship was a potential business angle. Every relationship was a potential liability. Vivian did not want that. She wanted to sit in a coffee shop and be nobody. She wanted a man to fall in love with her laugh, not her last name. She wanted a baby who grew up in a nursery, not a dynasty. So she left. New city, simple apartment, a consulting job she could explain without revealing anything. She told people her family was in business. She said her mother was retired. She kept her trust fund in a separate account and lived on a budget that would have made Rosalind weep. It worked. For 3 years, it worked. Grant loved her, or he loved the idea of her. The difference had taken 3 years to become visible, and now it was all she could see. She drove to a park near the house, the kind with wooden benches and old oak trees and a playground with swings. She sat and watched a woman about her age pushing a toddler. The child screamed with joy on a bench forward with swing. The woman's phone rang. She answered, laughed, said, "He made dinner. Can you believe it?" Vivian's chest tightened. She could not believe it. She really could not. The baby kicked again, 3 quick taps, like knocking. "I hear you," Vivian said. "I hear you." That evening, she went to the house to collect a change of clothes. Grant was in his office. She could hear his voice through the door, confident, commanding, the voice that had once made her feel safe. His laptop was open on the kitchen counter. The screen had not timed out. An email from Dolores, sent 3 days ago. Subject line, "Practical Matters." Vivian knew she should not read it. She read it. "Grant, I spoke with my attorney. The prenup protects you. If she has nothing, she gets nothing. Make sure the house stays in your name before the baby comes. A mother has to think of these things. Love, Mom." Vivian read it twice, then a third time. Each reading stripped away another layer of pretense. The prenup, the one that did not exist. Because Grant had never asked for one. Because he had assumed, with the unshakable confidence of a man who never questioned his own assumptions, that Vivian Calloway had nothing worth protecting. No assets, no family money, no leverage. He had married her believing she was a woman with nothing, and his mother had encouraged him to make sure she stayed that way. Vivian closed the laptop. She placed her hands flat on the cool granite counter. She stood very still. The refrigerator hummed. The clock on the wall ticked. The lavender diffuser exhaled its poison sweetness. She thought about the trust fund. $200 million. She thought about the Callaway Holdings shares in her name. She thought about the board seat she still held. She thought about the quarterly earnings calls she took from the closet of the guest room, while Grant and Dolores watched television downstairs. They thought she was nobody. They planned around her as if she were furniture, decorative, movable, replaceable. The baby kicked, one solid thump, right against her palm. "I know," Vivian whispered. "We are not nobody." The invitation had been on the refrigerator for 3 weeks. Grant's company charity gala, annual fundraiser, black tie, 300 guests. The kind of event where money performed and egos competed and wives stood slightly behind their husbands and smiled. Dolores treated the gala like a military operation. 3 days before the event, she laid a dress on Vivian's guest room bed, dark navy, shapeless, long sleeves. The kind of dress designed to make a pregnant woman disappear. "You do not want people staring at your condition," Dolores said. She smoothed the fabric with her palm. "This is elegant, appropriate." "My condition," Vivian repeated. "Pregnancy is beautiful, of course, but at a formal event, discretion is better." Vivian looked at the dress. It looked like something you would wear to a funeral. Your own funeral. "Thank you, Dolores. I will think about it." She did not think about it. The night of the gala, Vivian put on her own dress. White, simple, elegant, knee-length, her belly visible and beautiful. 7.5 months of life, curved and undeniable. She looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. For the first time in weeks, she recognized the woman looking back. When she came downstairs, Dolores was waiting by the door. Her face went through 3 expressions in 2 seconds. Surprise, disapproval, calculation. "You are wearing that," Dolores said. Not a question. "I am," Vivian replied. Grant appeared behind his mother. He looked at Vivian. Something flickered across his face. She thought it might be admiration, but it was replaced quickly by anxiety. The anxious glance toward Dolores. Always toward Dolores. "You look nice, Viv," he said carefully. "She will be cold," Dolores said. She picked up her clutch and walked out the door. The gala was held at the Whitfield Properties ballroom. Crystal chandeliers, open bar. A string quartet, playing something soft and expensive. Grant worked the room the way he always did. Firm handshakes, big smile. The millionaire who built it all, himself. Dolores worked the room differently. She moved from group to group, introducing herself as Grant's mother. She introduced Vivian as Grant's wife. The distinction was calculated. She was the noun. Vivian was the possessive. The silent auction tables lined one wall. Art, vacation packages, a vintage Porsche. Vivian stood near the wine display, holding sparkling water, watching the room from the edges. She was good at edges. She had spent her whole life learning how to be powerful in a room without anyone noticing. Then she heard it. Dolores's voice. Clear, carrying, designed to carry. Vivian does not really understand these events. She came from simpler circumstances, but we are teaching her. A ripple of polite laughter from the group. 5 women in designer gowns. They glanced at Vivian, some with pity, some with the quiet relief of women who are glad they are not the one being discussed. Vivian was standing 6 feet away. She heard every word, every syllable, the dismissal, the possessiveness, the "we are teaching her" as if she were a rescue dog learning to behave in public. Grant was standing beside Dolores. He had heard it too. She watched his face, waited for the flinch, the correction, "that is enough, mother." Even a slight shifting of his body away from her would have been something. He sipped his champagne. He said nothing. His silence was louder than anything Dolores had ever said. Vivian set down her water glass. She walked past the auction tables, past the string quartet, past a waiter carrying a tray of shrimp. She found a coat closet near the service entrance. She stepped inside, closed the door, sat on a narrow bench surrounded by fur coats and cashmere wraps that smelled of perfume and other people's wealth. Her hands were shaking, not from humiliation, from rage. It moved through her like heat, from her stomach to her chest to her throat, the kind of rage that does not scream, the kind that goes quiet, the kind that makes decisions. She pressed her hands together, finger to finger, steadying. "I am not small," she whispered in the dark closet. "I chose to be quiet. There is a difference." She sat there for 3 minutes, breathing, deciding. Then she stood, smoothed her white dress, and walked back into the room. At the bar, a man approached her, older, distinguished, silver hair and a watch that cost more than most cars. Sterling Voss, Grant's business mentor, the man who had invested $2 million in Grant's first development project. "Vivian?" Sterling said. He was smiling, but his eyes were doing something else, calculating. "How are you finding the evening?" "Lovely," she said. "Grant has built something impressive." "He has." Sterling paused, swirled his scotch. "Calloway. That is your maiden name, yes?" "It is." "Where do I know that name?" "It is fairly common," Vivian said. Her voice did not change. Her posture did not shift. But something behind her eyes went very still. Sterling studied her. He was a man who had made his fortune reading people. Something about her answer did not satisfy him. "Enjoy the evening," he said. He walked toward the lobby. He pulled out his phone. Vivian watched him go. She felt something she had not felt in months. Not fear, not anger, anticipation, like the moment before a storm breaks, when the air changes and the birds go silent, and you know something is coming, but you cannot stop it. She returned to Grant's side. He put his arm around her. Proprietary, not protective. That night, driving home, Dolores sat in the back seat and made a phone call. Her voice was bright, conspiratorial. "Colette, darling, it was wonderful to see you tonight. You looked stunning. We should have lunch this week. I want you to meet Grant properly." Vivian stared straight ahead. Grant drove. The silence in the car was thick enough to cut. "Who is Colette?" Vivian asked. A lovely girl, Dolores said from the back seat. Very accomplished. Good family. Mother, Grant said, but he was smiling. A small smile. The kind he thought no one could see. But Vivian saw it. In the glow of the dashboard lights, she saw it, and something inside her shifted, quietly, permanently. The house was quiet when Vivian returned from her doctor's appointment. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that has weight. Her appointment had been routine. Blood pressure slightly elevated. Dr. Pryor had frowned. Are you under stress? She asked. Vivian had almost laughed. Stress. Such a small word for what was happening. Some, she said. Family visiting, doctor. Pryor looked at her for a long moment. The look of a woman who has seen 1,000 pregnant patients and knows when some stress means drowning. Take care of yourself, Vivian. Your body is telling you something. She drove home thinking about that. Her body was telling her something. So was her mind. So was the hollow feeling in her chest that had taken up residence where love used to be. She parked in the driveway, noticed Dolores's rental car, noticed it was running, as if Dolores had just arrived or was about to leave, but the engine was warm. She had been somewhere and come back. Vivian walked inside, set her keys on the counter, walked upstairs. She wanted to check the nursery. She had been thinking about it during the drive. The mural, the stars, a small rebellion she could still touch. She opened the door. The mural was gone. The wall was beige. Fresh paint. She could smell it. That acrid chemical smell that burns the back of your throat. Wet and final. The crib was gone. The mobile. The star, mobile, with its little silver pieces that caught the light and threw tiny galaxies across the ceiling. Gone. The changing table. The basket of onesies she had washed and folded. The small stuffed elephant her friend had sent from London. All of it. Gone. In their place stood a daybed with cream linens, a writing desk. Fresh flowers in a crystal vase. The room had been transformed into a guest suite, Dolores's guest suite. Vivian stood in the doorway, her hands dropped to her sides. "Where is my baby's room?" she said. She did not know she had said it aloud until her own voice startled her. "Oh, you are back." Dolores appeared behind her. She was arranging throw pillows on the daybed, adjusting their angles with the precision of someone who had strong opinions about pillow angles. "The basement has plenty of space for the baby things. I had the painters come this morning. Infants do not need much." Grant agreed. "But—" Grant agreed, Vivian repeated. He thought it was practical. He thought it was practical to paint over our daughter's nursery while I was at the doctor. Dolores straightened. "Vivian, I did not paint over anything special. It was just a gray room with some drawings." Some drawings. 42 constellations, researched, sketched, painted by hand over 3 weekends, each one chosen for meaning, each one a small promise to a daughter who had not yet been born. Some drawings. Vivian turned. She walked to Grant's home office. He was on his computer. She stood in the doorway and waited until he looked up. "You let your mother erase our child's room." He leaned back in his chair. She thought. "I did not ask what she thought. I asked what you did. Viv, she is trying to help. You are being hormonal." The word landed like a slap. Hormonal. The catch-all dismissal for any pregnant woman who dares to have a feeling that inconveniences a man. "I painted those stars myself," Vivian said. Her voice was steady, controlled, but underneath it, something was vibrating, like a wire pulled too tight. 42 constellations. I looked up every single one. "We can repaint," Grant said. "That is not the point." "Then what is the point?" She stared at him. 10 seconds. 15. He did not blink. He did not understand. He genuinely did not understand why a woman might care about a room she built with her own hands for the child growing inside her body. The point, she said slowly, is that you keep choosing her every single time, without hesitation, without thought, without even the decency to pretend you considered me first. Grant sighed. He actually sighed. You are making a big deal out of nothing. Nothing. The nursery is nothing. Rooms can be repainted, Vivian. My mother is here for a few months. The baby will not even remember. I will remember. She turned and walked away, down the stairs, through the kitchen, past the lavender diffuser that she wanted to throw against the wall, through the basement door, down the creaking wooden steps, into the cool cement air below. The crib was there, leaning against the wall like something discarded. The mobile lay on a cardboard box. The silver stars were tangled, knotted together in a mess of thin wire and crushed dreams. Vivian sat down on the concrete floor, 8 months pregnant, on a basement floor, in a house that cost $3 million. She picked up the mobile, began untangling it, star by star, slowly, carefully, the way you do something when doing it is all that stands between you and breaking apart. Star by star, wire by wire. Her mother built a $30 billion company. Her mother sat in rooms with heads of state and Fortune 500 CEOs. Her mother had been on the cover of Forbes twice. And Vivian was sitting on a basement floor, begging for a nursery. She untangled the last star, held the mobile up. The basement light caught the silver, little stars spinning slowly in the dead air. No more, she said. Quiet. Final. Not to the baby, not to Grant, to herself. No more. Her phone rang. Margot. Sterling Voss just contacted our corporate office, Margot said. Her voice was tight, controlled, lawyer voice. He was asking about a Vivian Calloway. I handled it. But Viv, your cover is cracking. Vivian looked at the spinning stars. She thought about covers, about masks, about the woman she had pretended to be for 3 years. Maybe it is time it cracked, she said. The breaking point did not come with a scream. It came with a whisper. 2 days after the nursery was destroyed, Vivian was in the guest room, on the phone with Margot. The door was closed, but not locked. She was reviewing a trust restructuring document. Normal work, the kind she did quietly, in stolen moments, while the rest of the house believed she was napping. She did not hear the footsteps. What are you hiding? Dolores stood in the doorway. Her arms were crossed. Her eyes were fixed on the phone in Vivian's hand. She had heard something, a word, a name, Calloway Holdings. Vivian ended the call. I was on a personal call, Dolores. I heard you say Calloway Holdings. What is that? Some kind of company? Are you working on something behind Grant's back? It is a private matter. Dolores stepped into the room. Are you in debt? Is that what this is? Are you dragging my son into some financial mess? That is not because I warned him, before the wedding. I told him to have you investigated. But he said you were honest. He said you were simple. Another word, another knife. I told him no woman walks away from her family without a reason, Dolores continued. Her voice was rising, gaining the momentum of someone who has been waiting months to say what she really thinks. And now I find you whispering about some company on the phone. What are you, Vivian? What are you really? Vivian stood. Slowly. She was taller than Dolores by 4 inches. She had forgotten that. She had spent so long shrinking. I am your son's wife, she said. I am carrying your grandchild, and you are in my guest room, uninvited, asking me to justify my existence. Your guest room? Dolores's laugh was sharp, 1 syllable. This is Grant's house. It is our house. You contributed nothing to it. The words landed. They were designed to land. Every syllable was a brick in the wall Dolores had been building since the wedding day. You trapped my son with this pregnancy, Dolores said. Quiet now. Precise. I see exactly what you are. A nobody from nowhere who got lucky. The air in the room went still. Even the lavender seemed to freeze. Vivian heard footsteps. Grant appeared in the doorway. He looked at his mother. Dolores had tears in her eyes. Performed. Theatrical. Perfectly timed. What did you say to my mother? Grant asked. Vivian stared at him. Ask her what she said to me. She is crying, Vivian. She called me a nobody. She said I trapped you. Grant looked at Dolores. Dolores dabbed her eyes with a tissue she seemed to have produced from nowhere. I was just expressing concern, she said. Her voice trembled. About the phone call, about secrets. Mom, it is okay, Grant said. He put his arm around Dolores. Then he looked at Vivian. She is 62 years old. Show some respect. Show some... Vivian stopped. She pressed her lips together. She could feel her blood pressure rising. She could feel the baby shifting, restless, responding to the cortisol flooding her mother's bloodstream. She thought about Dr. Pryor. Your body is telling you something. I am leaving, Vivian said. Oh, here we go, Grant said. The dramatic exit. I am packing a bag. I am going to a hotel. I will call you when I am ready to talk, without your mother in the room. That is ridiculous. What is ridiculous is that I am 8 months pregnant and I do not feel safe in my own home. The word stopped him. Safe. It was a word with legal implications, a word with weight. For a moment, something flickered behind his eyes. Concern, or maybe fear. Not for her, for the optics. Vivian packed one bag. Clothes, toiletries, prenatal vitamins. Her work phone, which she slipped into the side pocket. She walked downstairs, past Dolores, past Grant, past the lavender diffuser, past the kitchen she used to love, past the front door. No one followed her. She drove 11 minutes to the Meridian Hotel. Checked in. Room 417. King bed. Minibar she could not touch because she was pregnant. The room smelled like clean linen, and nothing else. No lavender, no Dolores. No disappointment. She sat on the floor between the bed and the wall. That specific spot. The one you find when you need to be held by something, but there is no one there to hold you. The bed on one side, the wall on the other, the floor solid beneath you. 4 hours later, her phone buzzed. Grant. Are you done with this tantrum? Tantrum. She was 8 months pregnant, sitting on the floor of a hotel room because his mother had called her a nobody, and he called it a tantrum. She did not respond. She set the phone on the nightstand. Face down, the city lights came through the curtains, blurred, beautiful in the way things are beautiful when you are too tired to judge them. She ordered room service, a bowl of tomato soup. It arrived hot. She ate it slowly, cross-legged on the bed, watching a home renovation show on mute. A couple argued about paint colors. She almost smiled. The normalcy of it. Soup, television, silence. It felt like oxygen. After being underwater for months. At 11:45, she did something she had not done in 14 months. She called her mother. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3. Rosalind Calloway answered on the 4th ring. Her voice was calm, alert, as if she had been waiting. Vivian, Bum? Mom. 1 word. Her voice cracked on it, split right down the middle. A pause. The kind only a mother understands. The kind that measures the exact depth of her child's pain. Tell me everything, Rosalind said. So Vivian told her. All of it. The guest room, The nursery, the gala, the hospital, the prenup email, the soap, the word simple, the word nobody, the word hormonal, the 4 seconds of silence. Rosalind listened. 14 months of distance dissolved in 20 minutes of truth. When Vivian finished, Rosalind spoke. Quietly. The way she spoke in boardrooms, when the decision was already made, and everyone else just did not know it yet. Vivian, I have let you live your life your way. I respected your choices, even when I disagreed, even when it hurt me to watch. But if that man and his mother are endangering my grandchild's well-being, I will not sit quietly. Do you understand me? Vivian Mance closed her eyes. She had spent years running from her mother's world, from the power, the control, the way Rosalind could move markets with a phone call. But in this moment, on this hotel room floor, 8 months pregnant, alone, she did not hear a billionaire. She heard her mother. I understand, Vivian whispered. I tried so hard to be enough for him, she said after a long silence. But I was always competing with a woman who had 40 years head start. You were never competing, Rosalind said. You were performing, and the performance is over. Vivian pulled the blanket around her shoulders. The baby kicked. Gentle this time. A tap, like a hand on her arm, like someone saying, I am here. I am here too, Vivian whispered. She was not sure if she was talking to the baby or to herself. Maybe both. Sterling Voss had not slept well in 3 days. This was unusual for a man who prided himself on sleeping like a brick, regardless of market conditions. But the name Calloway had lodged itself in his brain like a splinter. He sat at his desk at 7 in the morning and typed 3 words into a search engine. Calloway Global Holdings. The results loaded. He read the first paragraph, then the second, then he leaned back in his chair and said a word his wife would not have approved of. $30 billion. Operations in 31 countries. Founded by Rosalind Calloway. Ranked 14th on the Forbes Billionaire list. Board of Directors, including Vivian R. Calloway. Vivian R. Calloway. Grant Whitfield's quiet wife who came from simpler circumstances. The woman Dolores described as plain but fine. Sterling closed his laptop, opened it, closed it again. Then he called Grant. Lunch, he said. Today, the usual place. At noon, they sat across from each other at a steakhouse in Midtown. Sterling ordered scotch. Grant ordered sparkling water because he was trying to cut back. Sterling almost told him he was going to need the scotch. How is Vivian? Sterling asked. Fine. She is at a hotel, having a moment. Pregnancy hormones. You know. Right? And her family. What do they do? Grant cut into his steak. Consulting, I think. Small firm. Her family is from the Midwest. She does not talk about them much. Nothing impressive. Sterling set down his glass. Very carefully. The way you set things down when your hands want to shake. Grant, have you ever Googled your wife? What? Her last name. Calloway. Have you ever looked it up? Grant laughed, the confident laugh of a man who has never considered that he might be the least important person at his own dinner table. Why would I Google my wife? Try it. Sterling, what is this about? Just try it. Grant pulled out his phone, typed, waited. His face changed, not all at once. In stages, like watching paint strip from a wall, layer by layer. First, confusion, then doubt, then the slow, dawning recognition that the ground beneath his feet was not where he thought it was. This cannot be. It is, Sterling said. I confirmed it with 3 separate sources. Your wife is the daughter of Rosalind Calloway. She sits on the board of a company worth more than every person in this building, combined, including me. Grant stared at his phone. The steak was forgotten. His face cycled through emotions like channels on a television. Disbelief, confusion, fear, anger, more fear, shame, and then the one that defined him. The one that Vivian had always feared she would see if the truth came out. Calculation. His first thought was not, I have been a terrible husband. His first thought was not, I need to find her and apologize. His first thought, visible in the slight narrowing of his eyes and the way his jaw set, was, how do I fix this so I do not lose access to that money? Do not do what you are thinking, Sterling said quietly. Whatever you are calculating right now, stop. I am not calculating anything. You are. I can see it. And I am telling you, as someone who has been in this business for 30 years, you are outmatched. You are not playing in your league anymore. You are not even playing the same sport. Grant left the restaurant without finishing his meal. He sat in his car in the parking garage, engine off, hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2. He stayed there for 45 minutes. He replayed everything, every dismissive thing Dolores had said, every time he had chosen his mother, the guest room, the nursery, the gala, the word hormonal, the word tantrum, the prenup email. He had married a woman worth $30 billion. She had hidden it because she wanted to be loved for herself. And he had failed the test so completely, so thoroughly, that the failure was almost impressive in its scale. He called Vivian. She did not answer. He called again, and again, and again. Each unanswered ring was another brick in the wall he had built between them. Meanwhile, in a different part of the city, Vivian was on a video call. 7 people on screen. She was reviewing the quarterly earnings for Callaway Global Holdings. Operations in 31 countries. Revenue up 9%. The Southeast Asia expansion ahead of schedule. She was calm, clear, decisive. The people on the call addressed her as Ms. Callaway. They listened when she spoke. They took notes. They did not interrupt. When the call ended, she closed the laptop, looked at her belly, and said, in a voice entirely different from the one she used in boardrooms, "Your grandmother is going to spoil you absolutely rotten." The knock came at 7 that evening. Tate Brennan, her brother, 6'2", dark hair, the kind of face that looked like it had never smiled and was proud of the achievement. He walked into the hotel room, looked around, looked at Vivian on the bed with her swollen ankles propped on pillows. "This is where you have been living," he said. It was not a question. "It is temporary. Viv, you have been playing house with a man who does not deserve to carry your luggage, let alone share your bed." Margot said something similar. "Margot is right. Margot is always right. Do not tell her I said that." He sat on the edge of the bed. For a moment, he was not the hard-edged venture capitalist. He was her older brother, the one who taught her to ride a bike, the one who punched a boy in 10th grade for making her cry. "Viv, I love you, and I respected your decision to live your own life. But this is not living. This is hiding. And the woman I know does not hide." "I loved him, Tate." Past tense? She did not answer. The silence was its own answer. "I shrank myself to fit into his world," she said quietly. "I never realized his world was so small." Tate reached over and squeezed her hand. He did not say anything else. Sometimes, with Tate, that was enough. That same evening, Dolores was at Grant's house. She had been going through Vivian's belongings, looking for evidence of what she was not sure. But suspicion was Dolores's native language, and she was fluent. In a drawer of the bedside table, in the guest room, she found a second phone. Vivian's work phone. It was locked, but the lock screen showed a notification. "Board meeting. Callaway Global Holdings, Q3 Review. Dolores stared at it. She did not understand what she was seeing. Callaway Global Holdings meant nothing to her. She assumed it was a scam or a fantasy, some multi-level marketing nonsense that Vivian had gotten involved in. She showed Grant. He was in the kitchen, staring at his phone. He had been staring at it for hours. "Your wife thinks she is some kind of businesswoman," Dolores laughed. She held up the phone. "Board meeting. Can you imagine?" Grant looked at the phone. He looked at his mother. For the first time in his life, he saw her clearly. The cruelty she dressed up as concern, the control she called love, the smallness of her world, and the walls she built to keep it small. But he said nothing, because saying something would mean admitting he had been wrong, and Grant Whitfield had never, in 34 years, been wrong. The phone in Dolores's hand buzzed. A text from Margot Kellner. "Viv, legal review complete. No prenup. Community property state. You are fully protected. His assets are minimal, relative to trust structure. Also, 3 of his primary lenders are subsidiaries of Callaway Financial. Thought you should know." Dolores read the text. Her face went white. The morning after Sterling's revelation, Grant Whitfield woke at 4:30. He had not really slept. He had lain in his king-size bed in his $3 million house and stared at the ceiling where a water stain had recently appeared in the guest room below. Everything was connected. He just had not seen it. He showered, put on his best suit, the charcoal one he wore for investor meetings. He checked his reflection. He looked like a man who had everything. He had never looked more terrified. He drove to Margot Kellner's apartment building. He did not know the address. He found it through mutual social media connections. He sat in the lobby and called Vivian. She answered this time. "I know," he said. "You know what, Grant? About your family, about Callaway Holdings, about all of it." A pause. 3 seconds, then, "How?" "Sterling, he researched you." Another pause. Longer. "I want to see you," he said. "I am in the lobby of Margot's building." "I will come down." She appeared 5 minutes later. She was wearing a simple gray sweater and black pants. No jewelry, no makeup. Her hair was pulled back. She looked like herself. The version of herself she had been hiding. But something was different. She stood differently, taller, stiller, the quiet of someone who has made a decision and no longer needs to explain it. "Viv?" His voice cracked. "Baby, I had no idea. Why did you not tell me? We could have..." "Could have what?" "We could have worked together, built something. I would have treated you..." She let the word hang, waited for him to finish the sentence, watched him realize what he was about to say. "Differently," she finished for him. "You would have treated me differently." "That is not what I..." "That is exactly what you mean. If you had known I was wealthy, you would have treated me differently. You just said it yourself. And Grant, that is exactly the problem." He ran his hand through his hair, the nervous gesture, the one he used when a deal was falling apart. "I gave you 3 years, Vivian said." Her voice was even. Boardroom, even. "I gave you every chance to love the woman standing in front of you, without a number attached to her name. You failed. Viv, not because you did not know I was wealthy, because you did not think I was worth protecting. Because when your mother called me a nobody, you said nothing. When she dismantled our daughter's nursery, you said it was nothing. When I told you I did not feel safe, you called it a tantrum. My mother, she is difficult, but she means well. Your mother dismantled our baby's nursery and painted over stars I put there with my own hands. She called me a nobody from nowhere. She told you to protect your assets from me, and you let her. Every single time, you let her." Grant's eyes were wet. But Vivian had learned to tell the difference between tears of remorse and tears of consequence. These were the second kind. He was not crying because he was sorry. He was crying because he was losing. The lobby doors opened. Dolores. She had tracked Grant's phone. She marched in wearing a cashmere coat and fury. "Grant, what are you doing here? We need to discuss—" She stopped. Saw Vivian. Her jaw tightened. "We need to go home," Dolores said. "This has gone on long enough." "Dolores?" Vivian said. Just the name. Quiet. "I will not be lectured by—" A black car pulled up to the curb outside. The door opened. A woman stepped out. 5'4", silver hair, cut short, navy blazer, cream blouse, simple pearl earrings. She looked like a librarian. She moved like a general. Rosalind Calloway walked into the lobby. Tate was 2 steps behind her. Margot 3 steps behind him. The lobby suddenly felt very small. Rosalind looked at Dolores, directly, the kind of direct gaze that most people could not hold for more than 2 seconds. "You must be the woman who called my daughter a nobody," Rosalind said. Dolores's mouth opened, closed, opened again. She looked like a fish that had been pulled from water and was trying to understand why air did not work the same way. She lied to us," Dolores stammered. "She did not lie," Rosalind said. "She simply did not announce herself. There is a difference. I raised my daughter to believe people should be valued for their character, not their net worth. You have confirmed why she was right to test that theory." Dolores turned to Grant, waiting for him to defend her, to say something, to be her son. Grant stood between his mother and his wife, between the woman who had controlled him for 34 years and the woman he had failed for 3. He said nothing. The silence lasted 12 seconds. Vivian counted, old habit. Rosalind took her daughter's arm. "Shall we go?" she said, gently, as if they were leaving a restaurant and not a marriage. Vivian looked at Grant one last time. She searched for something in his face, regret, growth, the faintest sign that he understood not what he had lost, but what he had done. She found something, small, buried. A flicker of the man who had sat across from her in a coffee shop in Portland and asked what she was reading. But a flicker is not enough. A flicker is not a flame. And she was done warming herself at dying fires. "Goodbye, Grant," she said. She walked out of the lobby, into the morning air. October again, full circle. The trees were turning, gold and rust and the deep, bruised red of endings. Tate held the car door. She lowered herself in carefully. 8 months of belly and a lifetime of weight she was finally setting down. As the car pulled away, her phone buzzed. Grant's attorney, Wendell Fitch. She did not answer. Margot did. "Yes," Margot said. "I am Ms. Calloway's legal counsel. What is it?" A pause on the other end. Then Wendell Fitch said something that Margot would later describe as the sound of a man realizing he brought a butter knife to a sword fight. 3 of Mr. Whitfield's primary lenders have initiated review of his accounts. Calloway Financial is requesting accelerated repayment on all outstanding obligations. Margot smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a woman who had waited 3 years for this phone call. "Thank you for the update," she said. "We will be in touch." Vivian looked out the window. She was not smiling. She was not gloating. She was watching the trees, the way the light came through the leaves, gold, warm, the color of something ending and something else beginning. Rosalind reached over and took her hand, said nothing, held it. "You know," Vivian said, "I spent years running from your world. I know." "I was not running from you." Rosalind squeezed her hand. "I know that too." 6 weeks later, the baby came. Vivienne had moved into a brownstone on the Upper East Side. Tate found it. 3 bedrooms, a small garden, hardwood floors that creaked in the kitchen, which Vivian loved because it meant she could always hear when someone was coming. Margot lived 2 blocks north. Rosalind had rented the apartment above Vivian's. Temporarily, she said, which in Rosalind's language meant indefinitely, but I will pretend otherwise to respect your independence. The nursery was the first room Vivian set up. She painted it herself. Gray walls, 42 constellations, every single one. Same mural, same stars, different walls, better walls. She painted Orion above the crib, Cassiopeia beside the window, Lyra near the door. She took her time. 3 weekends. No one interrupted. No one painted over them. No one told her the room had better light. The divorce papers were filed on a Tuesday. Clean, quiet, no press. Margot handled the legal structure with the precision of someone who had been building the case in her head for 3 years, Grant contested. His attorney, Wendell Fitch, called Margot to discuss terms. The call lasted 11 minutes. My client is prepared to negotiate an equitable division of assets, Wendell said. Your client has $40 million in assets, most of which are leveraged against loans from banks owned by my client's family, Margot replied. My client has a $30 billion trust structure in irrevocable instruments predating the marriage. There is nothing to divide. A long pause. The house, Wendell tried, is in your client's name. He can keep it, along with the lavender diffuser. What about... Wendell, I am going to be direct with you. Your client married a Calloway and spent 3 years letting his mother paint over nursery walls and call his wife a nobody. There is no version of this negotiation where he comes out ahead. The only question is how gracefully he accepts that. Grant accepted it, not gracefully, but he accepted it. His business unraveled in stages. The loan reviews triggered margin calls. 2 development projects stalled. An investor pulled out after learning the details. Not the money details, the personal details. Apparently, letting your mother dismantle a pregnant woman's nursery was not the kind of leadership quality that inspired confidence. He lost the house 3 months later. Not to Vivian, to the bank. His net worth dropped from $40 million to 11, then to 6. Dolores called Vivian once. The call lasted 90 seconds. I want to apologize, Dolores said. Her voice was stiff. The apology of someone who has been coached to apologize, not someone who is sorry. For what specifically? Vivian asked. For any misunderstandings. There were no misunderstandings, Dolores. You understood me perfectly. You just did not think I mattered. I did not know who you were. That is exactly the point. You knew who I was. You just did not think it was enough. Silence. I wish you well, Vivian said. She meant it. Not warmly, not coldly, with the detached kindness of someone who has moved beyond anger into something quieter and more permanent. She hung up, set the phone down, looked at the nursery, the stars, the crib in its proper place, the mobile catching the afternoon light. The baby came on a Friday, November, first snow of the season, the kind that does not stick but falls soft and white and makes the world look new. Vivian's water broke at 3 a.m. Margot drove her to the hospital. Rosalind met them there. Tate arrived 20 minutes later and paced the hallway like a man who had never been nervous in his life and was furious about the discovery. Dr. Pryor delivered the baby at 7:22 in the morning. A girl, 6 pounds, 11 ounces, dark hair, gray eyes that would later turn green. She is perfect, Dr. Pryor said. Vivian held her daughter, the weight of her, real, warm, heavy with life and possibility and every constellation she had ever painted. "Stella," Vivian said. "Her name is Stella." "For the stars," Rosalind cried. She had not cried in 11 years. She stood by the window and let the tears fall without wiping them, silent tears, the kind that come from a place so deep they do not make sound. Tate held Stella for 30 seconds and then handed her back because his hands were shaking. "She is so small," he said. His voice was rough. "Why is she so small?" "She is 6 pounds, Tate. That is normal. She should be bigger. She should be armored." "She does not need armor," Vivian said. "She has us." Grant asked to be at the birth. Vivian said no. He met his daughter 2 days later. Supervised. Margot was present, not as a lawyer, as a witness. He sat in a chair beside the hospital bed. Vivian placed Stella in his arms. He held her the way people hold things that might break, carefully, reverently, with the sudden awareness that he was touching something worth more than anything he had ever built or bought or leveraged. He cried. Not for Vivian, not for the marriage, not for the money. For the first time, Grant Whitfield cried because he understood what he had lost. Not a billionaire wife, not access to wealth, not status. This, the warm weight of his daughter, the trust in her sleeping face, the woman across from him who would have loved him forever if he had simply chosen her. "She looks like you," Grant said. His voice was barely audible. "She looks like herself," Vivian replied. A week later, something unexpected happened. Colette Ashford called. Vivian almost did not answer. She knew the name. The woman Dolores had chosen as her replacement. The lovely girl from the gala. "Mrs. Whitfield, Miss Calloway," Colette corrected herself. "I know this is strange," I debated calling. "What can I do for you, Colette?" "I wanted you to know something. Dolores approached me deliberately. She wanted me to replace you. She talked about Grant's marriage like it was a business transaction she was restructuring. She arranged dinners. She sent me his schedule." "I see. And now she is telling people you deceived Grant, that you hid your identity to trap him. I do not think that is fair. I wanted you to hear that from someone outside the situation." Vivian was quiet for a moment. She was sitting on the couch. Stella was asleep on her chest. The baby's breath was soft and rhythmic against her collarbone. "Thank you, Colette. For what it is worth, I looked you up. You are kind of incredible." Vivian laughed, a real laugh, the kind that comes from surprise and warmth and the unexpected grace of a stranger. "Thank you," she said again. After hanging up, she sat with Stella for a long time. The brownstone was quiet. Snow fell outside the window. The radiator clicked and hummed. Margot was coming over for dinner later. Rosalind was upstairs, on a call with someone in Singapore. The world outside was vast and complicated and full of people making choices. Some good, some terrible, some that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. Vivian looked down at her daughter. Stella's hand curled around her index finger, tiny, fierce, holding on. "I will never make myself small for someone else," Vivian whispered, "and neither will you." 1 year later, Vivian Calloway was on the cover of a business magazine, not because of the divorce, not because of Grant Whitfield, not because of the dramatic reveal of a billionaire heiress living in hiding. The press had tried that angle. Margot shut it down with cease and desist letters that arrived faster than morning coffee. The cover story was about Callaway Global Holdings' largest acquisition in company history, a clean energy conglomerate spanning 4 continents. 3 years in negotiation. Vivian had led the final phase. The photograph showed her in a boardroom, black blazer, white blouse, no jewelry except but a thin silver chain. She was looking directly at the camera, not smiling, not stern, just present. Fully, completely present. The headline did not mention Grant. It was a Thursday in October. 1 year since the hotel room, 1 year since the tomato soup and the silent renovation show and the phone call to her mother that changed everything. Vivian sat in her office on the 31st floor of the Callaway building. The view stretched across the river to the skyline beyond. Sunset light came through the floor-to-ceiling windows and painted everything gold. In the corner, a playpen. Stella was inside it, chewing on a stuffed elephant. The same elephant from London, the one that had been banished to the basement. It had survived. So had they. Above the playpen hung a mobile. Little silver stars, the same mobile Vivian had untangled on a basement floor. Star by star, wire by wire, she had kept it, not as a souvenir of pain, as proof that broken things could be made whole. Her desk was organized, laptop, coffee, a stack of quarterly reports, a framed drawing from Margot that said, "World's most overqualified single mom," in crayon. Margot's humor had not improved with time. Vivian loved it anyway. Her phone buzzed. A text from Grant. He texted once a month now. Polite. Careful. Always about Stella. "How is she sleeping? Did she like the book I sent? Can I see her this weekend?" Vivian responded when it was about the baby. Never about them. The them that used to exist had become a door she had walked through and closed and not looked back at. She typed a reply. Stella loved the book. She tried to eat it. Saturday works for a visit. Margot will coordinate. She set the phone down, looked at Stella. The baby was standing now, holding on to the edge of the playpen, wobbling, determined. Her gray-green eyes were focused on the mobile above her, the stars spinning slowly. "You like those?" Vivian said. Stella made a sound that was not quite a word. She reached for the stars. Her fingers closed on air. "You will reach them," Vivian said. "Not today, but you will." The intercom on her desk buzzed. Her assistant. "Ms. Calloway, your mother is on line 2. Thank you." She picked up. "Mom? I saw the cover," Rosalind said. "You look powerful. I look tired. Those are the same thing when you are a mother." Vivian smiled. "How is Singapore? Profitable. How is my granddaughter? Currently trying to eat a stuffed elephant?" Smart girl, testing the structural integrity of her environment. They talked for 12 minutes about business, about Stella, about the weather in Singapore and the autumn in New York. They did not talk about Grant. They had stopped talking about Grant months ago. Not because the subject was painful, because it had become irrelevant. After the call, Vivian stood. She walked to the window. 31st floor, the city below, traffic and light and millions of people living their lives, making choices, some brave, some foolish, some both, at the same time. She was wearing jeans, a white blouse. Her hair was down, black coffee on her desk, a paperback on the side table. The same woman Grant met in a coffee shop in Portland. She had always been this woman, every version of her. The one in jeans reading paperbacks, the one in boardrooms leading acquisitions, the one painting stars on nursery walls at 2 in the morning, the one sitting on a basement floor, untangling silver wire. She was all of those women. She had simply stopped pretending she was only one of them. She thought about Grant, not with anger, not with bitterness, with the strange, quiet clarity that comes after a long storm, when the air is clean and you can see for miles. He was not a villain. He was a man who had never been asked to be brave, whose mother had built a world around him that was comfortable and small and did not require courage. He chose comfort every time, not because he was cruel, because he did not know there was another option. But that was his journey, not hers. She thought about Dolores, a woman so afraid of losing her son that she dismantled every relationship he built, who measured people by their usefulness and discarded them when they became inconvenient. who called a pregnant woman a nobody and believed it. Vivian did not hate Dolores. She understood her, which was worse, in a way, because understanding someone who hurt you means you cannot pretend they were a monster. You have to accept they were human, flawed and frightened, and doing damage with the same hands they used to hold their children. She thought about herself, the woman who hid, who shrank, who counted breaths instead of speaking truths, who sat in guest rooms and basements and hotel floors because she believed that love required erasure. That woman was not gone. She was part of Vivian, always would be, but she was no longer in charge. Stella pulled herself upright in the playpen, stood on wobbling legs, took one step, then another, then sat down hard on her diaper and looked at her mother with an expression of profound indignation. Vivian laughed, walked over, knelt beside the playpen. "That was 2 steps," she said. 2 whole steps. Stella reached for the stars again. Still too high, still out of reach, but closer than yesterday. "Come on," Vivian said. She lifted her daughter out of the playpen, settled her on her hip, walked to the window. The sun was setting. The sky was orange and purple, and the deep, impossible blue that only appears for 3 minutes between day and night. The city glowed. "You see all of that?" Vivian said. "That is the world. It is big and loud and sometimes unkind. People will underestimate you. People will try to make you small. People will look at you and see only what they expect to see." Stella grabbed a fistful of her mother's hair. "But you are a Calloway, and Calloway women do not stay small." She kissed her daughter's forehead, smelled the clean, sweet scent of baby shampoo and new life. The mobile in the nursery at home would catch the moonlight tonight. 42 constellations on the walls. Orion for courage, Cassiopeia for strength, Lyra for music, and Stella, the brightest one. The one that was not painted on a wall, but breathing in her arms. Vivian turned from the window, set Stella back in the playpen, sat down at her desk, opened her laptop. There was work to do. There was always work to do. But first, she picked up her coffee, took a sip. It had gone cold. She drank it anyway. Cold coffee and a paperback and the quiet satisfaction of a woman who had finally stopped apologizing for taking up space. She had spent 3 years in a house where she was 7th on the list, where her nursery was dismantled and her name was mocked, and her pregnancy was called a condition, and her feelings were called hormones, and her departure was called a tantrum. She had spent 3 years believing that being loved meant being less. She understood now. The prison door had been unlocked the whole time. She had been her own warden, choosing comfort over truth, choosing silence over self, choosing to be easy because easy was safe, and safe was painless, and painless was a life half-lived. No more. She looked at the cover of the magazine on her desk, her own face looking back at her, not smiling, not performing, just there, fully, permanently, unapologetically there. She picked up her phone, texted Margot, "Dinner tonight, bring wine, the good kind." Margot replied in 4 seconds, "Already on my way. I brought 2 bottles because I am an optimist." Vivian smiled, set the phone down, looked out the window one last time. The city was lighting up, building by building, window by window, 1,000 small lights against the coming dark. She was one of them. She walked into the guest room, not because anyone told her to, because the corner office had a better view, and she was done with small rooms. Closing disclaimer. This content was carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team to deliver meaningful stories with real-life lessons and emotional value to our audience.